Oh, welcome back to the Sunrise Safari here with, at Djuma Private Game Reserve here in the Sabi Sand. And what a fantastic buffalo sighting we've had with this particular carcass. All these vultures in this melee around this carcass this morning. There's been a hive of activity actually since we've got here, which was about 10 or 15 minutes ago. It just hasn't stopped, the seething mass of vultures. It's a beautiful day out here. Very few clouds in the sky, not a cloud above my head right now, and about 77 degrees, 13 degrees centigrade. It is ramping up to be an epic day. And while myself and Brian were just sitting over here, we heard the Birmingham boys, what sounded like the Birmingham boys, just in the bushes to the back, roaring their heads off. So they're still in attendance over here. And what we'll do when we finished having a look at these vultures is going to go have a look at them and see what they got up to last night. From what I understand from the Zoomies, or from our Zoomies, Chris and Lynn, thanks Chris and Lynn for updating us all on some lion activity. Apparently a male lion walked right up to the dam wall, or up to the water last night, stood there for a minute or two and then walked off again, which is not uncommon for lion to do. But thank you for giving us the update there, that's much appreciated. And let's just have a look at these vultures at the moment. They are really having an absolute party around this, what's left of this buffalo carcass. You can see that predominantly they're white-backed vultures. The bushveld vulture. Chasing one another, biting one another. I mean, it's just absolute chaos. As the meat starts to finish, the energy around the carcass will get even more intense, and literally they will finish almost every last scrap of meat that's there, leaving only the sinews and the meat between the bones for the hooded vultures to come and take care of. Look at that big guy there, wings open, standing on top of his carcass. That does one flying off. You can have a look at their faces, are dark from all the meat that they've been eating, and very necessary. Vultures are an absolute necessity out here, otherwise you'd have a bunch of meat and bacteria rotting and lying about in the bush, which you don't really want. So they play a very important ecological role in getting and reducing bacterial numbers out here. Have a look at their backs now towards us. There you can see that characteristic white back. Okay, the one just turned away from us now, but there we go. Yeah. It's all like I'm the king of the castle. It's a big game that they're playing at the moment. Now, it's not often that we see vultures around a carcass like this. But if you have any questions, they're not going to be eating for too much longer. I don't see too much meat left on that kill actually. But if you want to send us some questions that we can try and answer while we're watching them, you're welcome to use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you could send an email through to questions@WildEarthTV, and we'll try our best between Tara and Jess in final control, and myself and Brian out here, and Jamie and Andrew to try and answer them as quickly as well we can, I suppose. Wow. Now, because the carcass was opened already by the lions, there was no need for a lappet-faced vulture here. They are the largest of the vultures, and it's their job to open up carcasses, and because they're the biggest, strongest vultures, they often get first choice. But I haven't seen a leopard-faced vulture here. I actually haven't seen a leopard-faced vulture at Djuma while I've been here since April. But these are all bushveld or white-faced or white-backed vultures, and their job is to eat the insides of a carcass. They're very good meat eaters. They've got almost a serrated tongue. They can pick up slippery, slimy bits and pieces of meat. There we go. Listen carefully. Listen. Birmingham boys roaring. There, they finished roaring. I hope that you heard that. That was epic. Nice, huge coalition of males roaring their defiance at whatever else is around over here. I haven't heard an answering roar yet. In fact, the only thing to answer is a hyena. Wow. Hyena whooping, that's what the vultures... So we've got a few hyena whooping around us, just one giving a big whoop now, and it was answered by a smaller one. Just two hyena answering the lion's challenge. Nothing else has answered their challenge. I wonder what has happened to those Matimba males. Here we've got a vulture coming into the melee carrying a mouthful of grass. I don't know if he's using it as a peace offering. How bizarre is that? That vulture just walking in from the left over there had a mouthful of grass when he walked into the kill, and then promptly put the grass down and joined in the fray. Maybe he bought with a face cloth. As you can see, the frenzy around the carcass is starting to die down. Meat is pretty much finished. So X-Ranga in Hobart, Tasmania asked a very good question here. If a predator had to come and run into this kill, would the vultures, would they not be able to fly away? Would they not be able to get away because of their full bellies, or because of the fact that the bush looks so thick? You know, the vultures are fairly aware of their surroundings. They flew into the trees when we arrived here, and we were probably about 100 yards, 100 meters away from them when we got in. And they flew into the trees, saw we weren't a threat, and then descended again. And you know, the dozens of times that I've seen vultures on kills, I've never really ever seen one be caught by anything. I have seen pictures of it though, but I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen a vulture caught by anything. You do sometimes find a hyena, jackal, and lion moving in on them if they are a little bit too bold around the carcass, but for the most part, by the time vultures move in, the kills are usually finished for the predators. Have a look at those. I love the fact they make them stand on top of their carcass. I just heard that Edward says that the challenge has been accepted, that the lions laid down. The hyenas have said that they also are part of this environment. Ooh, there we go. What's coming in here? Okay, so we've got one brave soul. So there's a very good example of what happens when something the vultures don't like happen. So I don't think anything has walked in. I think it was just one getting a fright that caused the general panic. Straight back to eating again. I've got some soft contact calls happening from these lions lying just off of this carcass. I think now would be a pretty good time for us to go and see if we can find these male lions. It sounds like the one is moving away from us. Just getting these very soft contact calls. Definitely hearing one off to the left, further left of. Lynn's asked a nice question. Do vultures get TB from eating the buffalo? And Lynn, you very good assumption there. Vultures are the vectors for a lot of diseases, which means that they carry the diseases, they can transmit the disease, but they don't get sick from the diseases. And in particular, the one that the vultures are most commonly known for is anthrax. So vultures are immune to anthrax and are the vectors for it, and spread anthrax precisely by doing what you're watching now, by feeding on carcasses and therefore picking up the anthrax spores and then going to go and bath in dams around. Anthrax gets washed off and lies in the bottom of the pans, and then when the drought comes, or when the dry season comes, all the spores are lying at the bottom of those pans, and the animals drinking from the muddy water get sick from it. So not too easy natural as environment over here as is a butterfly. Very necessary. Watch out for the thorns here, Brad. I'm going to pull your face off. Okay, so we got what sounds like a male lion making a contact call off in this direction over here, and the other group just here. I don't think they're too far from us, although famous last words. Let's see what we can pull out of the bush over here. Watch out here. You okay? Doing my best to try and camouflage Bright. Have to take this one a bit wide. Okay, you might hear a bit of screeching going on. It's not too much of a problem. Okay, I've got a male lion right in front of me. Sorry about that, it was just us getting through that thick bush. Here we've got this male lion right here. Oh, sorry, that bush attacks my microphone. He looks like he wants to go back to the kill. Let's see what he can do. There's not much meat left on that carcass. In actual fact, there's nothing left on that carcass. So I doubt he'll stick around for too long. You just get through this thick bush over here. I see him sniffing around. Turn around over here so we can get a better look at him. They're still sniffing around. This is very close to where the lions were lying yesterday afternoon. It looks like I can see a bit of vehicle tracks. Sorry, Mom. My shiny ball spot getting in your way again. So these male lions definitely look like they still got their blood up. Oh, they're in such good condition. They really are. He's an enormous bodied lion. Okay, he's now moving towards where we heard the other males roaring. There's no doubt that they're here somewhere. We're going to just keep our eyes open and see where this guy goes. Alright, he's on the game path, definitely got some smell in his nose. He's just off to our right hand side now. I'm going to see if I can get in front of him. The bush is a little bit thick where we are now. But this is about where I would imagine the other lions were roaring from, not too far from where we are right now. It's one of the scariest things that you can have a male lion walking straight at you like this. The Maasai in Kenya believe that a real man's only allowed to be scared 3 times in his life. The first time when he's a young boy and he's lying in his mother's arms and he hears a male lion roar. The second time when he sees a lion's footprints in the dust around the cattle that he's looking after. And the third time when he stands down a charge of a full-grown male lion with nothing but his spear in his hand. And if he survives that, there's nothing to be scared of in this world. And I must be honest, I think there's merit in that saying. Through here. I don't quite know what he is busy smelling around. You might find that this is the 4th or the 5th member of the coalition that's now just looking for his brothers. Okay, I've got some more lions on our left hand side. Let's go and have a look. Yeah, it looks like they're all here. This is looks like the 4th member. Blair has made a mention that this is Blondie, one of the Birmingham boys that was named in November last year. Thank you, Blair. Nice big guy, I must be honest with you. We've got 4 male lions here with a 5th busy joining them. So the whole coalition is here. Just want to see what's going to happen to this one lion. Looks like he's giving him a bit of a stalk. We're just going to have to go around this bush here quickly. Let's go and do that. Going to get a bit bumpier while we go around. Excuse me for that. This seems elephants have had an absolute party here. Find a suitable gap through the trees. Looks like we got them just in time. Carrying on down the road. That blonde male that we joined, he's definitely, I don't know what he's busy doing, but he's definitely not happy with something. He's just walking, contact calling the whole time. One of these males yesterday was getting a bit cross with the vehicle, so I just want to watch how I approach them. Not that they're exhibiting any signs of distress at the moment, to be honest, but it's always a good thing. No matter how comfortable you think you are with these cats, it's always a good thing to take some time to judge their mood before you just drive in. Magnificent. I've no doubt that these three are going to stand up now and move off with the two that have just gone down the road. There we go. A big stretch. They're probably quite stiff after all the exertions from yesterday. And then I just want to show you, when we've finished looking at this male when he goes around the corner, I want to show you what happens when male lions fight with one another, what a very common wound is. On the lumbar region of this male here on the left, you'll notice that he's got quite a prominent scar. That is very typical. That scar that you're seeing there, that's a very typical bite mark from a lion being attacked by another male. So he was at some point caught by another lion, and that is a tooth and a claw mark. And that can be paralyzing. It's a crippling bite. That's why lions do it. So the skull and the lumbar region are where lions first target. They're just fighting face to face, nothing much. But when they're fighting to the death, when they're fighting for a proper fight, that's where they go for. I think let's follow these other lions. If we're going to be hearing them roar again, I want to be with the bigger lions. He's giving us a hairy eyeball on our way past over there. Oh, these lions are now lying down here. Good. Let's hope they roar one more time. I would really, really love to have the chance to listen. I'm just going to try and squeeze past. Would you like me to sit there? Yeah. Sunrise with a lion. These seem to be the new kings on the block. Now if you just excuse me, I'm just going to be on the radio for a little bit to update everyone on the sighting. So you're going to hear me talking. It's me just talking on the radio. The station's relocated on 5 Maduro Ngala. They are static on Vulture's Nest Road by the big Balanites. Just one station in this position. It's Stefan. That's affirmative. Miss Jin has just asked me which are the bigger lions, the Matimbas, Hairy Belly and Ginger, or Blondie and his four and the rest of the coalition. That's a good question. I would say that Ginger and Hairy Belly are the bigger lions. Even though I think that this blonde male that we were just following now has a bigger body. He's not as tall, not as rangy. I think they're probably weighing around about the same, give or take a few kilograms. That hairy-bellied male that is part of the Matimba coalition is an enormous male lion. He really is big. Easily looking at about 250 kilograms or 500 pounds there, easy. Whereas these guys, I think the younger of the males here, the four brothers, are in the region of about 200 to 220 kilograms, maybe slightly less than 200, with the blondie male looking like he's around about 230, 240 kilograms, which is big. That's big for male lions for the Kruger National Park. After having seen lots of male lions in the Kruger, I can honestly say that Hairy Belly is the hairiest, tallest male I've ever seen in the Kruger, with this blonde male that we've just been having a look at, uncommonly big. I've seen lions his size before, but he is uncommonly big in body. His mane is still quite small. As you can see, they've got a full fuzzy mane, but the long black hairs that are so prevalent in dominant male lions are not visible at the moment. They will start to come in the next year or two. Keep an eye on these lions. For those of you that have taken screenshots in the last couple of days, bookmark them and correspond the photos this year to the photos next year if we're still lucky enough to see these guys, and you will notice a drastic change in their manes. Now, with us talking about lion prides and lion takeovers over the last couple of days, and lions moving in, and the need to kill cubs and get their genes into the system as fast as possible, and we're creating this impression that lions need to do everything at double pace. And it's true to some extent. Kay has just asked us, how old do lions get? What's their longevity in the wild? And Kay, the answer to that question is around about 9 to 12 years for a male, with the average being somewhere between there. The average is 9 to 12 years. I have seen males around about 12 to 13 years. I have seen male lions literally hold on to an area for a couple of months and then lose it. But it would seem that between 9 and 12 is the average lifespan of an adult male lion in the wild, with a female between 12 and 16 years. I think we've got some lions coming down the road behind us. Oh no. Well, yes. I woke up this morning with my neck a bit stiff, so turning left is a little bit of a challenge for me this morning. One of the signs of spending too many years bouncing around in Land Rovers. Bree, good morning Bree, you've asked a nice question here. Would a lion that's in a coalition have a different skill set to a lion that has to hold a territory on his own? And we were almost snuck up on by a lion over here. The answer to that question, Bree, is I think that all male lions are capable of holding their territories on their own. I think that all male lions have the capacity for that, but I'm going to give us the other side of the coin. I think that in a coalition, a lion's personality is allowed to shine through. Now, that might be quite a controversial topic, with me saying that lions have personalities, but I'm a firm believer that that every lion has this. Some are more aggressive than others. They learn through experience. They definitely do. And in a coalition, that experience, that tempers, that character is allowed to shine through. So lions that are more active in mating or more active in fighting or at the front of the queue when it comes down to hunting or whatever the case may be, they're allowed to shine in a coalition, which just makes the coalition stronger, in my opinion. However, like I said, I think that every single lion has the ability to hold a territory on their own, just through years of natural selection. You know, it's not lion numbers have been on the decrease for hundreds of years. You got things like drought, disease that play a part. I'm sure that if you go back in the history pages, even before man had an impact on lion numbers, you would have seen lion numbers fluctuate wildly between different types of climatic conditions and whatnot. And through all those challenges, this survivor gene has stayed part of them. They're really super cats. I think with them lying down like they are at the moment, it's going to give us a chance just to reposition our vehicle. While we do that, I think Jamie's got something to show you. Shame I've been hogging the limelight this morning. So we're going to send you over to Jamie, and we'll catch up with you in a little bit.
So guys, good morning and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have Andrew, the aardvark, on camera with me. And in front of us we have Zeus, a very large, very distinctive male kudu with some spectacularly widespread horns. He really is quite beautiful. He's unfortunately tucked away in some fairly thick bush at the moment, but we did just have to stop for a regularly seen kudu character. So I hear that you've been having a fantastic time with Steph and those Birmingham boys, and we have had reports of the Nkuhumas on a buffalo kill sometime last night around Gowrie Gate. So I've been trying to follow up here. Their tracks are up and down and all over the place, so I'm still just looping around to see what I can find. I'm not sure exactly whereabouts that buffalo kill is. There's tracks of that large buffalo herd everywhere as well. So I've just been driving along and then stopping to listen. Did a little bit of a walk, but no luck in one particular block. So we're going to keep searching, but I'm very impressed with the Nkuhuma pride. They've done very well considering the pressure and stress that they must be under, to have managed to kill another buffalo sometime last night. A big thank you to Chris and Rob in the UK for letting us know about that buffalo kill. I'm still trying to get hold of Lee to find out exactly where it was, but for now I'm going to see if I can track them myself. They spent a lot of time lying and sleeping in the road, and from there they either gone north towards Sandy Patch Road or they've gone south towards Impala. It's very difficult to see because they've been pacing up and down, which is typical when you're tracking lions that are on the hunt, because the different pride members do split off and move in different directions. So an exciting morning planned. I'm very impressed that the Nkuhumas have decided to stick around the way that they have, and I'm sure we're going to find that buffalo kill. It's just a matter of really thoroughly checking the area and making sure that they are around. And last night was absolutely incredible. Listening to 5 male lions roaring is quite an impressive sound, or at least 3. I only identified 3 individual roars, but really cool. And I went to bed with that sound and woke up hearing that sound. So it's interesting. They've really sort of strongly establishing their territory around there. So those are my plans for the morning. This kudu is tucked away into the thick bush, so I think it might be time for us to head out and see if we can find out where those nkuhumas have gone. I do just want to check the Buffelshoek boundary so that I make sure that they haven't crossed sometime during the night, and then we get a loop back around to where I had the last tracks. So I've looped around to the north here, so I'm fairly far from where I had the last nkuhuma tracks. I just wanted to make sure that they didn't pop out of a block somewhere, so that we don't spend the whole morning trying to track them when they are in fact in Buffelshoek. So I'm going to loop back around, and while I do, I am going to pass through quite a bad signal area. So I'm going to send you back across to Steph, who is with the Birmingham boys, and I will continue with my tracking mission. As soon as I find a nice spot where I can show you how difficult the nkuhumas have made life in terms of walking up, down and side to side, I will bring you back across to show you. But for now, enjoy the Birmingham boys, and I will be back with you a little bit later.
Oh, welcome back to us. And it's a good thing Jamie's tracking the nkuhumas and see what happened to them last night. And while she's doing that, we're enjoying a sunrise with these big male lions. And as they've been filing past us, we've been noticing that each of them are carrying a different set of scars around it. The male lion that we saw yesterday when we first found him with all the holes in his face. Wow, behind us is some elephants that are screaming. It sounds like they are busy having a big fight with one another. Doesn't sound like they're coming in this direction, but we're definitely going to keep our ears peeled. Just in case they come running up behind us. You never know with these elephants chasing each other right around the bush. Have a look at that view there, sunrise. It's a really beautiful day today. The rest of the coalition is lying on the other side of that tree that you've got in the top left hand corner. They've just got up to move a little bit. Never quite know why with these guys. Dr. Debbie has asked, do these lions grow any taller, or is this how tall they're going to be? Dr. Debbie, I'd like to say that they are probably going to stay the same weight, but they will get a bit taller, and in so doing they will lose some of their bulkiness. That is something that I have seen with male lions before, is they get a little bit taller, but they lose their bulk as they get a bit older. They don't seem to deflate as such. I think they just grow into their bodies, really. At the moment, these guys are like wrestlers. Now, around us at the moment, I'm just hearing these elephants crashing through the bushes at the moment. They're still quite a way off. I'd say probably 300 meters or so. We're just hearing trees smashing and elephant trumpeting, and Wow. Something's upsetting them a lot. So Vilma, I'll get to your question in a moment, but this male lions have just poked their head up. They're listening to something has happened. So it's not the elephant that they're listening to, which are trumpeting their heads off still, but something around their carcass. Maybe. Oh, here we go. What's happened? Get ready for a roar. Well, there you have it. It's 5 male lions roaring like they're shaking the ground. That was insane.
That was incredible.
This whole car was shaking and doing its thing. Congratulations. I still think Hairy Belly roars better than what you do though. So, to come back to your question, Vilma, what was your question? Let me just get that again. Please excuse me in the excitement of hearing the roaring. Ah, yes. Okay. So sorry about that, Vilma. If males are nomadic, if males are nomads or alone, how do they form coalitions? Now, you get the most common way, Vilma, of coalitions forming is from the same pride. Not necessarily brothers, but more commonly brothers from the same natal pride. It will be cubs of around about the same age, give or take a couple of months. Usually brothers will form coalitions with one another. But in the case of a lion like Junior, he may very well team up with a male lion from a previous litter, even years previous, that has left the natal pride, that he has some connection with. I've never read any material anywhere that says that lions or male lions form coalitions with other males that are outside of their natal pride. I've never ever read anything like that. It's not to say that it doesn't happen. I've by no means read every book that's ever been written on lions, and I am not a scientist, but definitely coalitions are formed through related males, not necessarily of the same litter, commonly from the same litter, but not necessarily from the same litter, but definitely from the same pride. Wow. Now that roar, when we got here, what was quite evident was all these males were facing due south. They were facing south, and when they spun around to listen to something, they spun around completely and looked to the west. Now, that says that they're either answering a challenge from other males in the west, which is quite possible. I mean, there's other lion prides in the west of the Sabi Sand. But their main threat is from the south, from the Matimbas, and I think that's exactly what they're doing. Djuma, as I've mentioned before, is a place that is there seems to be a void in male lions. There's just the Matimbas here, and with the Birmingham boys moving in, they're moving into this vacuum and filling this void, and I think it's just a wonderful time and a wonderful space for them to fill. Actually, there's lots of lions around here, lots of females, lots of prides. There's more than enough lions for everyone, and an empty space for male lions. So it's going to be good to see what happens here over the next couple of months, I must be honest. Kay's just sent through a message saying that a dog and a cat almost jumped out of their skin with those roars. Isn't it fantastic to see that domestic animals, even though they have never ever learned or heard a lion roar before, still react with instinct to the roar of a full-grown male lion? Funny enough, I met a gentleman a couple of years back that used to breed with Jack Russell Terriers, and he used to breed the dogs specifically as tracking dogs, and he used to know which dogs to keep and which dogs to sell to pet stores by putting newborn pups on a lion skin that he had inherited from somebody, and the puppies that stood their ground and growled while they were on the lion skin he kept, and the puppies that whimpered and moved off are the ones that he sold to the pet store. And unorthodox and definitely a bit crude, but very effective way of breeding working dogs for the bush. I just thought it was a very interesting way of doing it, tapping directly into that instinct that we all carry, that lions seem to bring to the surface from time to time. As the day heats up, the frequency of those roars will drop down. The efficacy of their roars will diminish, and they won't put as much effort into roaring. Starting to roar again around sunset once the air calms down a bit. I have no doubt this will probably be one of the last few roars that we hear for the day, but let's just see. We'll count down how long it takes. There's around about 10 to 15 minutes between their roaring. Let's see what the time span increases to now. I did actually notice one of these lions is quite a deep puncture wound above his one ear, and Karen in Oregon has just asked if we can potentially see it. And Karen, the lion that has moved behind those branches at the back is one of those lions have that hole above his ear. This one that we're looking at right now is in perfect condition. The one that is lying behind the bush that we can just see is in good condition. But I did definitely notice a scar there. I didn't have time to pick up my binos, so I couldn't tell you if it's a scratch mark or a puncture wound. But it definitely won't do anything to hamper him, I don't think. Lions are pretty resilient to being scratched and bitten. But we'll definitely, if we can get a chance to move around, we'll see if we can see what that is. During this these high energy takeovers, it's quite common for them to pick up wounds and scars. Some of them they carry for the rest of their lives. The last time I witnessed a five male coalition take over a pride was some years ago, probably in 2003 or 4, and one of the males actually had his eyeball ripped out of his head by a fight, and another male had his nose and skull partially crushed, and they carried those scars until they died as old male lions. The one-eyed male and a male with a skew face. And And that was literally just fighting older males. Also a 5-male coalition taking over a 2-male coalition. And also in the Sabi Sands, funnily enough. Albeit a bit further south of here. Oh, he's beautiful. Have a look at those eyes. Oh, here we go. So much for my 10 or 15 minute Come on. What was that? He wants to roar. Now, for all my years of looking at lions, I haven't ever touched a lion, or I hadn't ever touched a lion until I'd been guiding for about 10 years in actual fact. And I had the chance during a lion that we darted to sit and feel a male lion, to rub his fur and to run my fingers through their mane. And you'd think that a lion's fur is soft, it's dense. I would have thought it was very similar to a house cat's, but it's very thick and very coarse and very spiky, and their skin is incredibly thick. It's really like nothing that I've ever felt before. It's not at all what it looks like it feels when you're looking at them like this. You won't be able to, for instance, run your fingers through their mane. It's very thick, and the fur on their body, even though it looks short, is probably about half an inch thick or half an inch long. It's really a bizarre coat, I must be honest. Here you can quite clearly see a scar, a scratch mark on top of his face. It's probably from a feeding ruckus with his 4 brothers. If they killed something small, for instance like a warthog or an impala, the frenzy around that kill is just insane, and that looks very similar to other claw marks I've seen where one of his brothers would have slapped him on the top of his head with his claws extended, and the claw got stuck in his skin, and as he pulled his face away it left a nice new scratch to identify him with. So Lynn would like to know, why do lions always seem to sleep with their one paw flipped over like that? Lynn, I wish I could answer that question. I do see it. I have noticed it almost every single time that lions sleep. I've also noticed it on my house cat, that they have the most bizarrely flexible poses that they like to sleep in, and I think it's just comfortable. It's a similar thing to how you sit perhaps with your legs curled up underneath you to the left or to the right or folded across. It's just a preferential thing, I think. I don't think it means anything in particular. Risa wanted to know, with us looking at this lion, if it's not a challenge if we look a lion directly in the eye. And Risa, yes, absolutely, I would say that it's a challenge, but not from where we are in the vehicle. Us looking at a lion, plus the headlights of the car, plus the camera lens, it's all a bit disjointed. And I don't think we pose that much of a threat. I do see if we drive straight at cats, it can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. But definitely when you're on foot, absolutely when you're on foot, if you break eye contact with the lion, quite often they charge those 2 or 3 steps closer. So it's definitely important that you maintain eye contact with the lion in the bush, absolutely. And that's definitely just a challenging thing. You staring that lion down, most anything else in the bush will turn around and run away. But if you can force yourself not to and stare that lion down, it is intimidating for them. And really the only way to get out of there safely. But I'm quickly just going to be on the radio again. I'm hearing that there's some of our colleagues wanting to get in here, and I've had it turned down. So excuse me for 2 seconds. The station's just an update. The 5 Madura and Gala are still stationary on Vulture's Nest and Gela with at the Balanites. There's just myself in this position. I'm presenting at the moment. You're welcome to make your way in if you'd like. I'm just listening to the replies. Exactly. There we go. These half-hearted attempts at roaring. I don't know what he's busy doing. I'm not sure what he's up to at the moment. Starts a roar, brothers don't join in, realizes it's not worth the effort, and carries on with his day. Isn't that just a beautiful bushveld picture? Lion, sunrise, sky. We've got some vultures crying over our shoulder, squabbling over the remains of that carcass. We've got elephants trumpeting in the bush off to our left hand side, not too far away. Seasons changing. We can expect a lot of the trees to start flowering within the next couple of weeks. Definitely between now and the middle of September, we're going to start seeing a flush of different flowers on different trees, with the acacia starting and shambok pods, and then the tree wisterias, weeping brewer beans. Everything's going to start flowering. Although the bush won't really thicken up for a while, We're looking at the new buds on the leaves coming in probably around about the end of October only. We will start seeing a noticeable difference in the greenery around here after the first rains start. But definitely a very similar change to what we witnessed in, say, April through to the end of May. We're going to be seeing in September through to the beginning of October. Gradual change in the bush from this brown flat grass. There you go, just a big stretch. Curling his toes up. Look at that fat belly. Got some buffalo in it. It's quite hazy today. There was a slight wind blowing when we drove through from the Manuleti this morning, and it is kicking up dust every day. The little bit of wind that August brings kicks up a bit more dust into the atmosphere, which is good. It's that's going to help the first rain start. Dust in the atmosphere is absolutely necessary for water droplets to form around, and that is how we're going to get some of our first rain as soon as moisture from the Indian Ocean blows in again. Which should be around about the second week of October, around plus or minus a few days, where we get our first big rains. Even though we can expect a few rains in September, we won't get our first big rains, and by big rains I mean 20 millimeters plus or so. Referring to my comments a little bit earlier on how lions fur feels, Tina has commented, what does the black fur feel like on the back of a male lion's ear, on the back of a lion's ear? It looks so soft. Tina, it's pretty much the same hair all over the lion. It's probably about half an inch long, and quite sharp. The hair, if you rub their coat against the grain, it actually pricks you. Whereas if you run it with the grain, it almost feels oiled. It's like a very thick fur. And their ears are very similar to that. Their ears are softer than the rest of their body, similar to the fur on their bellies. That white fur on their bellies is also quite soft, and on the inside of their legs is quite soft. But definitely not house cat soft. It's a very coarse, thick, sharp hair, hard hair. Having a look at these lions, one lying on his back with his belly fully exposed, the other one closer to us with his eyes closed. You could well imagine that these guys are we're flies on a tree here. We're not even sitting in a vehicle with a big camera pointing at them from 10 feet away. And we've just been asked on Twitter whether or not these lions are about as habituated as what the Matimbas are. I would say absolutely, Carol. I'd say that they are about as habituated as what the Matimbas are. Male lions are always difficult to judge. excuse me, Cheryl, male lions are always difficult to judge. 99% of the time they're calm, but there is always that 1% that you get them one day when they've been charged by something or been in a fight, and literally they can turn on a dime. I've watched male lions that we've been able to approach for years, charge vehicles for nothing more than getting too close to a female, too close to a cub. And that has actually made me quite cautious when approaching any lion. I usually approach up to a point, switch off for a bit, see what they're up to, and then I'll start the vehicle and approach again, no matter how comfortable we are with those lions. I don't just ever drive straight in at a male lion. They can be quite temperamental. Normally, once they are habituated, they are fine, but absolutely when they're not fine, they are quite scary in an open vehicle with no sides. And I suppose a burning question on everybody's minds at the moment is what has happened to the little lion cub carcass? And Heather was the first to ask the question this morning. Good morning, Heather. That's a good question. I don't actually know. I was expecting, as we found the big male this morning, for him to be sniffing in the bushes around there for what was left. He didn't pull anything out of the bush. I can only presume that either vultures, hyena, or these lions ate that little carcass. That is the only realistic outcome that we can think of at the moment. To say that they ate it, I'm not too sure. To say that vultures ate it, possibility. While they were drinking, hyena might have come in. There were hyena calling around that carcass this morning, so definitely all feasible.
Yeah, I'm fine. He's a full belly now.
And the next question that comes to mind, I'm sure all of you have been asking yourselves this question, and Kathy's been the one Kathy Navadia has been the one to voice it. Would the Styx lioness mourn the loss of her cubs? That's a good question. It's something that we've been debating for the last couple of hours around the breakfast table and around the lunch table. My opinion on it, Kathy, is that there will be a degree of mourning. You can absolutely see it in the body language of a lioness that's lost a cub. You see them sniffing around and calling, contact calling. This doesn't last for very long. It lasts for about an hour or so that I've seen, and then the lioness generally moves on and doesn't display any other further outward signs that she's in distress or looking for that lost member of the pride. I don't think that they can afford to mourn the loss of cubs, to be quite honest. I think they do to a degree. I don't think it is as deeply emotional as what it would be for us. Don't forget that lions have lots of babies and hold on to their babies in their bellies for a very short space of time, giving birth to fairly helpless young, because the adult in the pride is more valuable than the cubs. It's very different for primates, and very different for an animal like an elephant or a rhinoceros, and then very different for humans, of course, is that we invest a lot of energy in one baby, in one offspring, and because of that we have a much deeper tie and a much deeper emotional tie to our babies or to our young, and it's necessary. You need that deep-rooted emotional tie to a youngster that you've invested a lot of energy in, to make sure that it survives or has the best chance of survival. Lions are not like that. Lions are very similar to birds or to insects in that degree, in that they have lots of babies very quickly and can reproduce very quickly after losing babies, so that they can get through tough times. And this is just one of those tough times. Male lions taking over a coalition is a tough time. It is a difficult time for Pride members. So I think I've probably over-explained myself again. I tend to waffle on a little bit, but to answer your question, yes, to a degree. Is it as deeply emotional? No. Not that I've ever witnessed myself.
Dominated by these female and males. Have a lot of females around. That female we saw in the buffalo down there, they're dominated by that sheep. And far south, there is the big pride which is already dominated by these females, which is some of the cubs you know we said that they were doing.
So I want to give Charlotte out of Port Elizabeth in South Africa a big hello and welcome to the show. And if this is not your first time you're watching the show, definitely is the first time it seems that you're asking a question. So welcome aboard. And you want to know, is there a dominant member of this particular coalition, and would he dictate the movements of the coalition? It all depends on what they're doing at the moment, in my experience, Charlotte. In my experience, there will be one lion out of the coalition that is dominant in hunting, that is dominant in mating, one that is dominant in protecting a pride, one that's dominant in fighting, and not necessarily always the same one. So depending on what activity they're doing, that male lion will be dominant in that event. Even though they can all share it. Unlike male lions that hold coalitions on their own, that have to be everything. They have to be the protector, the hunter, the father, they have to be everything. So definitely, depending on what they do, is there will be one male lion out of the 5 that will be more, it seems to take the lead, I should say, be more, or show more leadership characteristics, be more dominant in that particular one. But using the word dominant is probably the wrong phrase, because it gives off the feeling that one male lion is better than another. All these 5 males are equally, they share equally the dominance of this pride. They're all equal members. One is definitely not more dominant than another. But I think it would be a good time to go through to Jamie and find out what she's been up to. I'm sure she's got an update for you on what those tracks of the Nkuhumas are doing. And while we enjoy the sunlight and the flies starting to bug me, we're going to send you across there. Enjoy it. See you in a bit.
So guys, welcome back, and we're starting to piece together a bit of the mystery of what happened last night. So apparently the buffalo kill that the Nkuhumas made was quite a young one, so they finished it off very quickly and then moved across into this block. So I've done a lot of walking around here. We did pick up on some very, very fresh female leopard tracks as well, and the guys have just called me to say that they've got the tracks of the Nkuhumas crossing M boundary. So it looks as though they might have escaped us, but I'm going to just loop around and double check from that side. I did lots and lots of climbing up onto termite mounds and searching for them. I didn't realize that the buffalo carcass was such a small one. So let's loop around, because the leopard tracks head straight towards where they killed the small buffalo. So let's see if she's maybe headed across to try and nick a little bit of that carcass. And it definitely seems, I'm just listening to my game drive channel, but it seems as though the Nkuhumas have crossed M across our boundaries. So so it's time for us to move on to different things. So I was out walking in the block and Brenda and I had a very similar thought. So Brenda was just wondering if it's not a little bit riskier to be doing bushwalks at a time when there is a pride takeover happening, just because those lines are a little bit more on edge. So Brenda was wondering what kind of precautions we take, what would we do if we let the Birmingham boys on foot. I did have a similar thought in that I think the lions are going to be a little bit more unsettled, but I don't think it makes it riskier for us to walk them, no more so than normal. I think it might just make them more likely to run away, but you never know. That's the most important thing to remember about walking in the bush, is that even if you think you know the animals, if you walk them before, you think you know how they're going to react, you never actually do. Because it could be that one of the females was injured in the buffalo hunt or injured by one of the Birmingham boys, and it makes them just that little bit more aggressive. And it's quite important to bear that in mind while you are walking through the bush. If I met the Birmingham boys on foot, typically the general rule with lions is that the males are not as dangerous, or at least not as aggressive as the females tend to be. The females tend to be very, very defensive, and in my experience, the males tend to be far more likely to run away. So I think with the Birmingham boys, it's most important to remember the most important rule: you never, ever, ever run away from lions. You definitely can't outrun them, and you instantly inspire that chase instinct within them. So the typical scenario is you walk through the bush, you're tracking through the bush, and you encounter the lions and they start growling at you. You immediately stand your ground. If they start to charge you, you start shouting, you make yourself look big, which in my case is a fairly difficult task, but you make yourself as big as possible, you shout a lot, you make your voice nice and deep, not sort of high-pitched screaming, because that is not going to help your case at all. And you make sure that you maintain eye contact with the one that seems the most threatening. And in my experience, the one that is the most threatening is not the one that's making a lot of noise and standing and making himself look big. It's the one that's lying down with ears flat and tail lashing. And those are usually the ones that tend to do a sort of silent, quite scary charge. The most important thing if you are being charged by the lions is to stand your ground. Make sure that you keep eye contact, and then when they stop charging, then you take that opportunity to back away. And what often happens when you are backing away is that inspires a sort of second charge, because they feel like they're winning, and you've got to stop then. You don't keep backing away if they are charging you. And then you keep going like that until you have reached a safe distance away from them. So I think that there is a case to say that with the pride takeover, the lions are going to be a little bit more on edge. Whether that makes them more likely to charge or whether it makes them more likely to run away depends on the situation. was tracking those lions, and my mind was sort of quite well focused on where the lions have gone, I did pick up on those female leopard tracks, as I mentioned earlier, and it's amazing how when you're walking and you're focusing on one thing, it's very important to remember that there are other animals out there. I've done it before where I've been tracking lions and so busy looking for lions that I nearly walked into elephants. So it's important to keep that in mind. So now that we know that the Nkuhumas have crossed across our boundary, I'm going to spend a little bit of time trying to figure out who this female leopard is and which way she's gone. She did cross across from where I last saw the tracks into this block here, so I'm going to be looking around for her now. However, I know that Steph has repositioned and he's got another view of the Birmingham boys, so I'm going to send you back across to him for now, and I will be back with you a little bit later.
Welcome back to a sunlit cat. The boy that we were having a look at, he's walked off to go and join his brothers, not too far away from where we are at the moment, just around the bush on the other side. It looks like they've gone through to lie in a little clearing that might get some shade a bit later. Leaving this guy to bring up the rear. He's just finishing off his snooze. I hear that Jamie has found the tracks of the Nkuhumas crossing out of Djuma, which is unfortunate. But they'll be back, that's how it goes. And then Colin out of Johannesburg, he just asked, would these guys tolerate Junior amongst their midst if he had to? No, I don't think that would be at all likely unless Junior was incredibly submissive when they met one another. At the moment, Junior would be with his natal pride. He would not be welcome to join this coalition at all. And at the chance that they do meet one another, for him not to be attacked, which is a small possibility, he'd have to be very, very, very submissive. I've seen before when male lions about Junior's age have been taken on by a coalition, and the only way that male survived was literally by offering up his belly and his throat to the males that he met. They didn't attack him for whatever reason at that time, but I could expect a very similar sort of behavior from these guys in Junior. So then lying flat like this, Jamie was busy talking about all this lion activity around the reserve and how dangerous it is to walk through here now with all this activity. And absolutely, if you come walking through here and you don't see this male lion lying behind this bush, there's every chance that you could be almost on top of them before you see one another. And at that point, you may very well be within the fight or flight zone of these males. Generally speaking, male lions will always just get up and run away from you, to be honest. But it's not always the case. Sometimes they have got nowhere else to go, and then you have a bit of a standoff. Generally though, here things don't just want to jump up and kill you for no reason. We're quite scary things, human beings, and usually with just a little bit of a standoff where you let them know that you're not scared of them, even though inside you are, and I'm sure the feeling is reciprocated. Creating distance usually calms things down, so you backing off, maintaining eye contact until a safe distance away before putting a bush between yourself and that animal, and then going in a different direction usually diffuses the situation quite nicely. So, although dangerous and you have to know how to deal with the situation, you can usually get out of it without any injury to either party. Now, I think there's a very good chance that these male lions stay here for the rest of the day, and I think that it would be a good time for us to go and look for something else this morning. Myself and Brian need to get the juices flowing here in our bodies and get get some heart rates up. So I think it would be a good idea if we pulled out of this particular sighting and left them to their morning, relaxing in the sun and in the shade, and we'll see if we can catch up with them this afternoon or potentially a bit later on in the drive. But for now, let's head out and see what else we can find. Goodbye, big guy. Have a nice morning.